Have you ever wondered why some people choose to do bad things? What is it that drives them to harm others? To unravel this enigma, let's journey back to the earliest known instance of human malevolence. Picture this: two brothers, Cain and Abel, living in a time when the world was young and innocence was the norm. Yet, even in this idyllic setting, the seeds of evil were sown. Driven by jealousy, Cain committed the first recorded act of violence, murdering his own brother. A chilling reminder that even in the dawn of our existence, humans had the capacity to harm those they should love. As civilizations began to rise, so did the scale of malevolence. The pharaohs of ancient Egypt stand as stark examples. These were figures of immense power, often considered godlike, yet their reigns were marked by tyranny and oppression. The pyramids, awe-inspiring as they are, were built on the backs of countless slaves. The pharaohs held life and death in their hands, and often they chose death. But why? What drove them to such extremes? Was it a lust for power, or perhaps a fear of losing it, or was it simply the thrill of domination, the intoxicating rush of having entire nations bow to their will? We may never truly know, but one thing is clear: the capacity for evil is not a modern invention. It has been with us since our earliest beginnings. From the story of Cain and Abel to the tyrannical reigns of ancient pharaohs, we see that bad individuals are not a product of our times, but a persistent shadow over human history. They are driven by a range of emotions and desires, from envy and power to a simple wish to cause harm. So, as we see, bad people have been around since the dawn of time, driven by envy, power, or simply the desire to cause harm. As we continue our journey through the ages, we'll see how this propensity for evil has evolved, adapted, and unfortunately persisted. As we move into the Dark Ages, we see the emergence of more organized forms of evil. The Dark Ages, a period lasting roughly from the 5th to the 15th century, was a time of great turbulence and immense change. The fall of the Roman Empire had left a power vacuum, leading to the rise of feudal systems across Europe. These systems, in theory, provided structure and order. In practice, however, they often served as a breeding ground for oppression and cruelty. The feudal lords of the time wielded enormous power, and not all used that power benevolently. Some, like the infamous Vlad the Impaler, ruled with an iron fist, employing terror and violence to maintain control. Vlad, who served as the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Count Dracula, was known for his sadistic pleasure in impaling his enemies. His reign is a stark example of the kind of villainy that was born and nurtured during the Dark Ages. But the villainy of the Dark Ages was not confined to the actions of individuals. It was systemic, woven into the fabric of society itself. The church, for instance, played a significant role in perpetuating fear and suppression. The witch hunts that swept across Europe and the Americas are a chilling testament to this. Thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft and executed in a frenzy of fear and religious fervor. Religious persecution was rampant. Those who dared to challenge the church's doctrines or practices often paid the price in blood. Heretics were burned at the stake, their deaths serving as a grim warning to others who might dare to question the established order. The Dark Ages were a time when the forces of evil could thrive, unchecked by the constraints of law or morality. It was a time when villains could rise to power, their deeds leaving a dark stain on the pages of history. And thus, the Dark Ages lived up to their name, birthing some of history's most notorious villains. Fast forward to the 20th century, a time that saw some of the worst atrocities committed by mankind. The world stage was set ablaze not once but twice with the gruesome theatrics of the world wars. Leaders, driven by a cocktail of ideologies and ambition, led their nations into the abyss of destruction. Take Adolf Hitler, for instance, a man whose name has become synonymous with evil. His reign of terror led to the genocide of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust, a horrifying testament to the depths of human cruelty. On the Eastern Front, we had Joseph Stalin, another dictator whose iron-fisted rule resulted in the deaths of millions of his own people. But evil was not confined to the political arena. The same century saw the rise of organized crime, with figures like Al Capone taking center stage. Capone, a notorious gangster, ruled the streets of Chicago during the Prohibition era with an iron fist, orchestrating countless acts of violence and corruption. The 20th century also bore witness to a new variety of evil, one that wore a suit and tie: corporate greed. Scandals like Enron, where executives manipulated accounting rules and fooled the stock market, leading to the loss of thousands of jobs and billions in investments, showed us how destructive this type of evil can be. In the grand scheme of things, these instances of evil, whether they be political, criminal, or corporate, are all part of a complex tapestry woven by the darker side of human nature. They remind us that evil can come in many forms, and from the most unexpected places. In modern times, we see that bad people can manifest in many forms, from dictators to mob bosses to greedy executives. But remember, the face of evil is often ordinary, and its roots run deep within the human condition. We must always be vigilant, for the seeds of evil are sown in the soil of ignorance and fear. Now that we've explored the history of bad people, let's delve into the psychology behind their actions. In trying to comprehend the motivations of those we label as bad, it's crucial to consider theories of crime and deviance. For instance, the social learning theory suggests that individuals learn behaviors from their environment. Essentially, we mimic what we see. If an individual grows up in an environment where crime and deviance are normalized, they are more likely to replicate these behaviors. The strain theory, on the other hand, posits that societal pressures can push individuals towards deviant behavior. If society sets high expectations for success, but doesn't provide equal opportunities to achieve them, some individuals might resort to deviance or crime to meet these expectations. Then there's the ever-present nature versus nurture debate. Are bad people born or made? Research shows it's not a simple either-or proposition. Biological factors can predispose an individual to certain behaviors, but environmental factors play a significant role in shaping these predispositions. Consider studies on twins separated at birth. These studies show that while twins often exhibit similar behaviors regardless of their upbringing, their environment can significantly influence the direction and intensity of these behaviors. In essence, our genes may load the gun, but it's our environment that pulls the trigger. Now, let's not forget the role of mental illness in criminal behavior. While it's important to note that the majority of individuals with mental illness are not violent or criminal, some disorders can increase the likelihood of deviant behavior. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does provide another layer of understanding. In sum, the psychology of bad people is complex and multifaceted, encompassing an interplay of social, environmental, and biological factors. Understanding these factors doesn't justify harmful actions, but it does provide a foundation for prevention and intervention strategies. Understanding the psychology of bad people can help us prevent and address harmful behaviors. So, what can we learn from our exploration of bad people and their actions? Our journey through the annals of history has shown us that the presence of bad people is not a modern phenomenon, but a facet of humanity that has persisted through the ages. From the Dark Ages, where villainy was birthed in chaos and turmoil, to our modern times, where evil wears different masks, the bad among us have always found a way to exist. We have seen that these individuals can take various forms. They can be tyrants, dictators, and oppressors who exert their will over the masses, or they can be the silent predators, hiding in plain sight, their malevolence only revealed in their actions. The motives behind their actions are complex and multifaceted. Some are driven by a lust for power, others by a need for control. Some are fueled by a deep-seated hatred, while others are propelled by a twisted sense of righteousness. Understanding these psychological factors is crucial, for they give us insight into the minds of those who choose the path of harm and destruction. Yet it is not enough to simply understand the bad among us. We must also strive to counteract their influence. This involves fostering empathy, promoting understanding, and cultivating a society where respect for others is paramount. It involves teaching our children the value of kindness and the power of compassion. It involves raising our voices against injustice and standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. It involves creating a world where the bad are not allowed to thrive unchecked, where their actions are not ignored, but confronted. In conclusion, bad people have been and will continue to be a part of our world. Yet their presence should not deter us, but rather inspire us to work towards a world where their influence is minimized. While bad people will always exist, understanding their motivations and actions can help us build a safer, more empathetic world.